Cody Bellinger was the Rookie of the Year in 2017, MVP in 2019, and postseason hero in 2020, and yet in 2022, he had an uncertain future. Let go by the Dodgers, Bellinger signed a prove-it deal with the upstart Cubs, and he'd post a 134 WRC plus and 4.1 FWAR, having a 2020 season and looking like he would get paid this offseason. That being said, there are legitimate questions about how sustainable his offensive profile was and the injury history he's had in the past, having people wondering if the Yankees, who sorely need a left-handed outfield bat, should be the team that pays him big-time money. Hey everybody, I'm Ryan from Fireside Yankees, and before we dive into today's topic, YouTube says that 63% of our viewers aren't subscribed, so if you want to stay up to date on the elite content we've got coming out, click that big red subscribe button and turn on notifications while you're at it. You do not want to miss any of the bangers we're dropping, and you can also check us out on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and with all of that out of the way, let's get into the goods. Cody Bellinger was able to slash 307, 356, and 525 across 130 games with 26 home runs and 20 steals this past season, which for a left-handed hitter is exactly what the Yankees are looking for. He struck out just 15.6% of the time, displaying elite level barrel control and still generating plenty of on-field power. It would be impossible to argue that Bellinger, for what he was last year, wouldn't help the Yankees this year, but the question isn't whether 2023 Bellinger would help the Yankees, the question is whether he can repeat his 2023 season. For all of the excellent marks he had this year, he set a career low in hard hit rate, exit velocity, and barrel rate. And sure, there are guys who can hit for high OPS totals with poor hard hit rates, but it's hard to compare a guy like Cody Bellinger to a bat like Luis Arraez's, who struck out just 5.5% of the time this past season, which is 1/3 of Cody Bellinger's strikeout rate, and he also has much better sweet spot rates and definitely has better barrel control. That being said, Arraez had a 353 xWOBA and Bellinger had just a 331, so even the expected StatCast metrics that take into account things like hard hit data still widely consider Luis Arraez's batted ball profile significantly more stable than Bellinger's. Now, some could argue that Yankee Stadium would play a lot better for Cody Bellinger, but according to StatCast's expected home runs, he actually would have lost the home run had he played in Yankee Stadium versus playing in Wrigley. Now, that isn't a perfect metric. There are some things that you have to take into account like weather, but it's still important to note that it's not like he would come to Yankee Stadium and just get a massive power boost. StatCast suggests that Bellinger should have slashed 270, 327, and 437, which would have resulted in a 764 OPS, and that's the same OPS that Heimer Candelario had for the Cubs, and he posted a 106 WRC plus with them. That means that Bellinger should have been above average, but likely only 5 to 10% better than average instead of nearly 35%. Now, it is concerning that his expected results differentiate from his actual results that widely, but there is something that StatCast data doesn't take into account that Bellinger excels at. The two things come from his ability to pull the ball in the air and his ability to generate the ideal launch angles. Now, we can measure ideal launch angles by sweet spot percentage, and we just have to use pulled fly ball rate to find how good he is at pulling fly balls. He ranks in the 86th percentile in sweet spot rate at 38%, and with a 30.6% pulled fly ball rate, he is in the 69th percentile, grading out as well above average in both of those marks, and it would be easy to see how he put up a 319 BABIP and helps to further understand what he does well. As mentioned earlier, Bellinger excelled in terms of barrel control, and this allows us to discuss something that's become more popular to measure, and that's bat speed. Now, more bat speed typically means a higher power output, but there are drawbacks in some cases. If you think of a motion that you repeat often, you likely have a motion speed that you repeat without even thinking about it. Now, sometimes it might deviate based on the scenario, going a little faster or a little bit slower, but for the most part, it remains stable. Speeding it up randomly would likely allow you to exert more force, but would make that motion less accurate in repetition than if you slowed down for that motion. Swing speed shares this same characteristic, with hitters not always taking their 100% max effort swing every single swing, because that would increase in zone whiffs, and in certain situations, there's a higher emphasis placed on contact. Sacrificing control for speed, or the inverse, is important for the situation, and Bellinger does an excellent job at this. Bellinger increases his bat speed and quality of contact in counts that he's ahead in, specifically in 2-0 counts and 3-1 counts, where he not only swings more than hitters do in zone, but that situation actually allows him to crush the ball significantly more. In 2-0 and 3-1 counts, Bellinger has a 517 xWOBA, while the league average mark is just 416, and that's because Bellinger's bat speed takes a hike in these counts. Now, in 0-2 counts, he'll decrease his bat speed by a significant margin compared to the MLB average, and his whiff rate in those counts is just 17.2%, 52% with a 372 xwOBA versus the league average 28.5% whiff rate and 337 xwOBA. Now, barrel control and approach, those are both things that are really important, but the question lies with how sustainable those decisions are and how injuries or other variables can take him out of his balance mechanically. With an approach so reliant on having excellent body control and barrel control, any sort of injury can put him out of whack, which is something that we saw in 2021 and 2022. I'm confident he's a better hitter now than he was in those 2 seasons, but it's still clear that he will never be the hitter in 2023 that he was again without a significant change to his profile in a positive direction. How far is that drop off for Bellinger? Well, we won't really know until next year, but it does affect how teams will bid for his services. Now, player value doesn't always come from just the bat, and defensively, Bellinger is an excellent glove across all 3 outfield spots and first base, making him one of the most valuable and versatile defenders in the game, as in the 81st percentile in fielding run value, while having 33 outs above average and 31 defensive runs saved since debuting in 2017 in the outfield, and as a base runner, he's consistently above average as well, so the skills surrounding his bat will always be good enough for him to have a solid WAR, but the question is just how good will that bat be? At a 115 WRC plus, he's likely a 4 to 5 WAR player over the course of a full season, and that would make him worth the money he would reasonably get, but what is that money gonna look like? Now, SpotTrack believes his market value sits at 5 years at roughly $22.5 million a season, and that's a little bit north of $112.5 million, and while that isn't a perfect estimation, I think he'll get more money than that. Let's use this as a little bit of a thought experiment. Bellinger would have to accumulate roughly 13 wins above replacement to meet his player value, and now there are 2 factors that should be mentioned when using WAR per dollar, and that's that inflation will naturally cause the average dollar paid per WAR to go up, and the second factor is that you want to beat the market rather than match it. The Yankees have already netted below market value on multiple contracts on the team, so they'd like to actually get positive value on a contract if they want to sign a guy like Bellinger, and part of that would also be playing him at the position he'll net the most value at. That isn't to say you don't move him to first base if Rizzo's hurt or needs a day off, or left or right depending on the situation, but he should play the majority of his games in center field if they want to win the contract. While defensive runs saved has him as a negative out there, outs above average and fielding run value take into account much more, and they view him as an elite defender out there. Plus value at a premier position coupled with a 115 WRC plus or a 110 WRC plus would net the Yankees a center fielder who can hit, field, and run all from the left-handed side, and that's something that most teams just don't have. It also opens up left field for the Yankees to still acquire a big bat in their outfield, although it would complicate their ability to improve their pitching staff and also raise questions about where Jason Dominguez would play when he comes back. There's an opportunity cost with any contract, and while they'll see Rizzo, Hicks, and LeMahieu all come off the books over the course of the next 3 years, who knows what financial opportunities present themselves prior to the expiration of those deals. Now, a good counter argument to this would be that Garrett Cole and Aaron Judge are only getting older and you need to win a World Series. Waiting for another opportunity instead of going out and getting better would be malpractice and would be a disservice to both of them. But with that being said, I think it just comes down to how much Bellinger is going to get on the open market, what the Yankees are willing to blow past financially to improve their team outside of Bellinger, and a little bit of luck. But ultimately, they should view Bellinger as someone to pursue if their market isn't strong, not somebody to enter a bidding war over. Do you think the Yankees will sign Bellinger or should sign Bellinger? Let us know in the comment section below what you think and if your view on Bellinger has changed after watching today's video. Thank you again for sticking through to the end, guys, and we'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.